Existence and degrees of reality. First thing that I want to say is that it's my own conception. It might be different from conceptions of another philosophers. So when I talk about existence, it's different from, say, what existentialists consider as existence. When I speak about existence, I mean that everything, literally everything exists. Everything we can speak about, everything we can think about exists. Existence itself exists. Everything exists. Reality exists. Psychotic, like schizophrenic and delusional phenomena, also exist, although they are realistic but not real. We can't say much about existence itself. Everything that exists, exists. Everything that is, everything that is exists, and so on. Everything that exists, exists within the spectrum of reality, from completely unreal to completely real. So as a result, we have so-called hierarchy of the reality on this spectrum. On one hand, we have something completely unreal or almost unreal. On the other hand, we have something that is more real. Imaginary is something that is closer to unreal because it's something that's only in our imagination, and we identify it as something that only exists in imagination. On the other hand, psychotic phenomena like hallucinations and delusions, they are also not real, but they are extremely realistic. So on one hand, subjectively, they seem real to the patient. On the other hand, in reality, they are imaginary. There are also things which are closer to real, although not completely real, like virtual things. We also can't say much about completely unreal thing. We can't even imagine it, because if we imagine something, it's into the imaginary category. So in order for something to be completely unreal, it must exist in some form, but to be impossible even to be imagined. Like, for example, logical contradictions, for example, square circle, or something completely unimaginable, like absolute nothingness. So let's talk about the sphere of existence, which is almost completely unrealistic, but at least we can say something meaningful about it. I mean imaginary things. When I say imaginary, I mean all sorts of things, like imaginary, literally imaginary, fictionary, fantastic, and so on. Imaginary things are completely unrestrained by any laws. Laws of logic, laws of nature, it doesn't matter. Imaginary things exist only in the imagination. But at least we understand them, and we recognize them as being imagined. We don't confuse them with reality. Imaginary things have no potential for realization. Good examples of this type of existing things are unicorns or dragons. If imaginary things have the potential for realization, they become possible. But this leads to some restraint which is imposed on them. In order to become possible, they should obey the laws of logic, laws of nature, laws of reality. And unlike imaginary things, possible things are conditioned. They exist within some limited reality. The good example of possible things is some future events. We can predict them, we can think about them, we can realize them. We can turn something from possibility into reality. So possible things, possible events have the potential to turn into reality, but they are not real so far. The next type of existing phenomena are actually the most problematic. I'm gonna speak about psychotic phenomena, particularly hallucinations and delusions. They're problematic because they are subjectively absolutely real and objectively absolutely unreal. How is it even possible? So-called objective, consensus, or conditional reality is created by society. It's part of the existing world or universe which society agrees upon and used to. Implementation of the knowledge of what's real and what's not, what is part of objective reality and what is not, goes through the process of normalization, particularly through upbringing in the family, education, and mass media. Society teaches people what's real and what's not, what to believe. And if someone doesn't learn this lesson good, doesn't obey this rule, their strange ideas and their strange behavior are considered insane. But from their subjective point of view, everything that they perceive, everything that they think about is real. This is the biggest contradiction between subjective and objective reality. When something is subjectively real and objectively isn't. Just imagine the situation when you see something, hear something, understand something, but they say to you, don't trust your eyes, don't trust your ears, don't trust your mind, trust us. We know how the reality is organized. Okay, so let's start with another type of existing things which are almost real or have some kind of specific reality. Now I mean symbolic. What is symbol? Symbol is something that has its literal meaning but also means something else. For example, like road sign. Literally it's just a triangular or square or round piece of metal, but it stands for something else. It means something. And if person knows how to read these signs, these symbols, they can understand another illiteral, indirect meaning. For example, with the symbol of dove. Dove symbolizes peace. Then someone seeing dove being depicted in the art and the literature, they understand what it means. Now I speak not about the literal piece of metal of triangular shape or literal dove. I speak about the act of symbolization. Goal of this symbolization of this process is to create new meanings, connect ideas and things. Symbols, meanings, representation actually exist, and they are actually real because they have stable meaning, they refer to something that exists in reality. But symbols have specific type of reality, unique symbolic reality. That's why we call them semi-real or specifically real things. Another type of existing things which are connected to the previous one is abstract one. Unlike symbolic things and ideas, abstract ideas are not directly connected to physical or concrete, precise reality. It's usually some conceptual, theoretical, abstract constructs, ideas, things. They are created through the process of abstraction, sublimation, going away from this concrete, earthly level of understanding and unifying ideas, combining them in order to make something that would generalize, something which would refer to different sorts of things. Say, abstract philosophical ideas like love or justice, or abstract mathematical concepts like point or straight line. They are examples of abstraction. Do abstract things exist? Of course. Are they real? To some extent. Although abstract ideas are intangible, anyway they refer to reality. They offer us the chance to generalize. So we also can say that abstract ideas are somehow real, almost real. Another type of existing things which are closer to reality, but they have some specific type of reality, is recollection and memories. They exist in material world. Individual personal memory exists in the brain of individual. Collective memory exists in archives, all sorts of cultural heritage. But if we can say that memory itself is a fact of real present, the things that memory refers to are not present anymore. They are in the past. They are past experiences and information. That's why memories and recollections have a specific type of reality. It's real to some extent. Although they refer to past reality, it's not real anymore. It's also worth mentioning the interesting interplay between imaginary and recalled things. It's not an exaggeration to say that every fantasy is recollection. Just think about that. If I ask you to imagine, say, unicorn, you've already seen them in the pictures. Although we understand that they are not real, you've seen them in the pictures, in the books, in the films. So you have them in your imagination, and this imagination is combined from something that you've seen in the real world, in the real books, films. And this fantastical fictional object is also a combination of the real things. Real horse with real horn, but their combination makes it unreal, imaginary. The opposite is also correct. Often memory is also imagination, because memory is not just a process of retrieving the information like it's on the computer. Human memory is the reconstructive, imaginary process. But this topic deserves its own episode, so I'm not gonna concentrate much on that. And one more type of existing things are virtual ones. They are also almost real. They have their own specific reality. Virtual or simulated entities, they exist within some artificial environments. We perceive them with, say, our eyes and our ears, but we understand that they are not completely real. Like, say, when it's kind of metaverse, artificial augmented reality and so on. But it's also possible to combine this artificial simulated reality with so-called real reality, as we have in the case of electronic money, bitcoins and so on. They exist in virtual reality, but you can exchange them for real, usual money. And the last type of existing things are actually real things or real objects. These are objects which have absolute reality. Society agrees upon them that they exist and that they are real. No one has doubts about that. Usually it's physical objects that surround us. What we can say about real objects? How we determine reality? Real is everything which is not unreal. That means not in all previous categories. To be real, it means not to be unreal, imaginary, fantastic, possible, illusionary, psychotic, symbolic, abstract, recalled, or virtual. Although virtual, recalled, abstract, symbolic objects and ideas might have some degree of reality, if we want to say that something exists absolutely in reality, we must rule out all other types of existence. Real is something that is not unreal. And as a conclusion, I would want to go through the whole spectrum of unreal, real things and to discuss some connections between them. So, imaginary, fantastic, fictionary things are not real and they don't seem to be real. Imaginary things are connected with recollections, because in order to imagine something, we must recall something, we must recollect something from our memories and combine in unusual combination. Unlike imaginary, psychotic things, ideas and objects seem completely real subjectively, although they are completely unreal objectively. That's what distinguishes them from imaginary and real objects, ideas and things. Symbolic and abstract ideas and things have some degree of reality. but they have specific reality. We can clearly distinguish them from real objects. Although, unlike with psychotic objects and ideas, we have no problem with identifying them as semi-real. We don't confuse them. Recalled, recollected objects, ideas, and things exist in our memories, individual and collective, but the reality they refer to doesn't exist anymore. That's why we can say that recollection also has its specific type of reality. It's real, but it refers to some past experiences, which are not present, are not real anymore. And the virtual or simulated reality is something which is closest towards real reality, but also has some specific type of reality, not exactly being real. And we can say actually much about real reality, real objects, things and ideas. The only thing that we can actually say about real objects is that they are not unreal. So they are not imaginary, psychotic, symbolic, recalled or virtual. Thanks for watching. See you next time.